Accessibility for websites, PDFs, and other e-files. Part 1. In this video, we are going to provide an overview of how accessibility is applied in technology, from websites to PDFs and other e-files. We hope this video will encourage both you and your company or organization to make strides in ensuring that everyone, regardless of their abilities, can access the great information you're putting out into the world digitally. Here at Transcend, we not only offer translation services, we also specialize in plain language translation and design and transforming your content into content that's digitally accessible. We've provided accessibility services in more than 30 languages to help organizations comply with Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act. Haven't heard of Section 508? No problem. We'll go through a handful of legal accessibility standards together later on in this video, including Section 508. Some of our accessibility services include creating accessible PDFs in all languages, prepping Word files for PDF accessibility, adapting text to meet plain language accessibility standards, and evaluating websites for accessibility. If you need help making your documents accessible, let us know. We'd be happy to help you reach your accessibility goals. So here are some of the topics I'm going to be covering in this video. Why is accessibility so important? What it means to use people-first language and how impactful that language can be. What are the global and domestic standards for accessibility? How plain language and design can help you get your message across, and why it's a crucial step in creating readable content. And right at the end, we are going to cover what makes a PDF document accessible and how to build your Word document for accessibility from the get-go. Part 2. First, let's talk about why is accessibility so valuable to the companies that apply it, and why should it be important to you? Over 1 billion people worldwide have a disability. If people living with disabilities are our nation's largest minority group, creating accessible content not only allows you to reach your entire potential audience, it can also positively impact the way people view your organization's stance on inclusion. Accessibility enables web search results to reach more people. More people can search, find, and use your website, PDF, or video if it's accessible. By having content available to everyone, your organization's first attempt at client outreach starts before they even access your content or make a purchase. Accessibility allows you to attract the best and smartest people, not just able-bodied, to your organization. Do you want to limit future employees, interns, or others interested in learning about your organization to people without disabilities? If you limit access to your content, website, or job postings, you will be cutting off potential great hires or other contacts with disabilities. It's the right thing to do. In an increasingly web and technology-dependent world, it's important to do your part in ensuring that all people, regardless of their ability, can have equal access to your content. And finally, you are probably required to be inclusive. If those reasons weren't enough to convince you to create accessible content, U.S. law requires you to. Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act states that any organization receiving money from the federal government must make their technology and electronic files accessible for people with disabilities. This includes federal agencies, state, county, and city agencies and offices, schools, hospitals, and any other organizations that receive federal funds. Next, we are going to cover people-first language. People with disabilities are individuals with varying needs, interests, and abilities. If you're not familiar with the term, it means you should use language that puts the person before their disability, to reflect the reality that although many people live with disabilities, those disabilities do not define who they are. They are only one of several aspects of a whole person. Examples of people-first language include people instead of those people or you people, person living with a disability, person who is blank, deaf, blind, etc. Person who uses a wheelchair, not confined to a wheelchair. Person without a disability, instead of normal. Part 3. Now it's time to introduce you to the global and U.S. standards for accessibility. The Web Content Accessibility Guidelines 2.0, better known as WCAG 2.0, represents the current global standards for accessibility on the web. It was created by W3C, the International Standards Organization for the World Wide Web. WCAG 2.0 is made up of 12 technical guidelines under 4 principles: perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. For each guideline, there are testable success criteria, which are at 3 levels: single A, double A, and triple A, with single A being the lowest and triple A being the highest level. You can find these guidelines on the WCAG 2.0 website. WCAG 2.0 provides techniques to help meet those success criteria. Depending on which level and what technology it's for, some criteria may not apply to you. For most government agencies, AA is the level most sought after. Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act is a U.S.-specific law that outlines our standards for accessibility in technology. It was enacted by the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA. Section 508 says that all federal agencies and organizations that receive federal funds must make their electronic and information technology accessible to people with disabilities. This includes websites, electronic documents, and software. On January 18, 2017, the U.S. Access Board, the federal agency responsible for promoting accessibility and inclusion, issued a final rule that updates Section 508 to match the WCAG 2.0 AA guidelines. This means that some criteria that used to qualify as accessible under law may no longer qualify because technology is always evolving. The requirements may be stricter now. These updates were made effective on July 18, 2017. Federal agencies must meet the updated standards by the January 18, 2018 deadline. Part 4. Our next topic is plain language and design. One of the most important steps to take in making your document accessible is to ensure that your content and information is the plainest language possible. Plain language, also known as plain English or accessible text, relies on words and images that are easy to read, understand, and use for your intended audience. Take a moment to look at this example. Pause the video if you need to. In this example, we were able to transform a document with 241 words at a 4th-year college reading level to about 230 words at a 3rd grade reading level, while still getting the same idea across. By using plain language, you make your content more readable to people who may have low literacy, limited English-speaking skills, or cognitive disabilities. Not only will most readers be able to understand the simpler English, but fewer words means spending less money on translation as well. The beauty of plain design is it uses typography, images, and layout organization tricks to make your content more readable to the user. In this example, the after document not only looks nice and clean, but it is also more intuitive to read. The use of a larger font size, effective headers, bullet points, and white space help the reader to visualize the flow of the document and see its most important information. To learn more about readability in plain language, check out our video, Looks Matter, Plain Language and Readability Tips. Part 5. The next topic we'll cover is PDF accessibility. As we become more dependent on the web for access to information, the demand for accessible versions of documents we use every day is growing at a very rapid rate. When you make your documents accessible, you are not only complying with federal laws, you are creating documents that can reach a much broader audience. So you may be wondering, what makes a PDF accessible? The only difference between accessible and non-accessible PDFs is an accessible PDF includes invisible structural tags for screen readers and other assistive technologies. These tags communicate the structure and content of the document to a person who uses assistive technology. Because these tags are invisible, they don't affect the look and feel of the document, but they do provide basic accessibility features. Some features that tags help provide include properties that specify the document's source language so that assistive technology can read the information in the proper language, headings, subheadings, and paragraph styles to give your document structure and reading order that is easy to follow, alternate or alt text, which is especially important for people who have vision impairments. If the document contains imagery, charts, or graphs that helps them understand the information, they need alt text to refer to. Active links, which allow people to be able to easily visit the websites referred to in the document. So now that we've covered a lot of ground on accessibility, laws, and plain language, what can you do to create more accessible documents? Think about accessibility from the beginning and build it in from the start of your project, especially if translation is involved. If you have files you intend to make accessible, let us know. A little prep work on your part can make creating accessible PDFs faster, saving you time and money. We can show you how. To learn about how to prep a file from Microsoft Word to an accessible PDF, watch our video, How to Make Your Word 2016 Files Ready for Section 508 Compliant PDF Output. For more information, or if you are interested in our accessibility services, please reach out to us at end@transcend.net or visit our website at www.transcend.net.